Welcome to the Rise of the Challenge podcast. Joining me today, he's an athlete, TV host, an American Ninja Warrior, the champion of season 1 of American Gladiators, turned American Gladiator Rocket, a content creator. It's Evan Dollard. How are you doing today, Evan?
I'm doing better now that you've listed my accolades. Gosh, that was.
Am I missing anything? I mean, the resume is pretty good.
No, I think you might have made some of those up, actually.
I mean, hey, the listeners don't know, so.
They don't know. I feel like you padded my resume a little bit, but you know what? I'm okay with it. It really made me feel good.
Well, I'm happy. I am so happy that you're coming onto the show. I'm a huge fan of American Gladiators, and following your career, even post it, it's kind of exciting and an honor to be able to interview you today.
Well, thank you. You must have been pretty young when American Gladiators came out, though. Yeah, I mean that's going back a ways.
So the '90s version, I was a huge fan of as I've grown up. I actually have the nickname Nitro, so Nitro was a huge part of my life, and sadly, I have a tattoo of Nitro, not the name, because that was the nickname my family gave me. So
yeah,
that was. I think this is going to tell my age. When I was born, there was only 2 seasons left of the old American Gladiators. So
got it.
You came around in 2008. I think it was in middle school. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan. I mean, I've watched every episode maybe like 10 times. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the few that can't get enough of it. That's why the reboot only went 2 additional seasons. Which
I know.
Was a disappointment for everybody involved, because we had a lot of fun with it. I mean, apart from the spandex, which I could give or take, the competition itself was a lot of fun.
So we're going to go straight to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what were you involved in growing up?
Involved sports-wise, you mean, or just sort of generally?
Generally.
Oh, man. Wow. How much time do we have? No, I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, Fox River Grove. It's a small town northwest, about 40 miles northwest of the city. It's about as far away from Chicago as you can get and still be considered a suburb. And I had a great childhood. I really did. We were walking distance from the elementary school. There was a little wooded area where me and the other guys on the street, we could meet up and like build tree forts. I had a proper boyhood childhood where we were just running around playing cops and robbers and playing pickup games of street hockey. And yeah, as I said, building tree forts in the woods. Like, it was awesome. And I'm really appreciative for that opportunity, because it's something that not only you get to be active, but it activates your imagination and a sense of adventure and all that. So I was really, really appreciative for the way that I grew up. And I've got an older sister and a younger brother. Both of them are married now. And mom and dad that stayed married up until the point that my mom died of brain cancer when I was 2002, which is part of the story on American Gladiators. Because that had been maybe maybe 5 years since she had passed away. And that gave me a platform and an opportunity to sort of honor her legacy and the legacy of my family and my parents all collectively to be on that show. But yeah, that's where I'm from. A lot of activity growing up. Tried everything I could get my hands on, whether that was snowboarding or trying to make the basketball team or baseball team or whatever. I was never a varsity athlete. I was kind of good at a lot of things.
You kind of did it for the fun of it, not the competitive side, would you say?
No. Oh, no. I wanted to be competitive. I just didn't. I wasn't quite strong enough of a basketball player to make the team. So 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, that's when tryouts began for basketball in my town, at least. And those 3 years in a row, I did not make the team. And it wasn't until 8th grade that I did. And that was awesome. But then I rode the bench all 8th grade, all freshman year, all sophomore year of high school. And then I decided to branch off into theater. And that's basically how I finished up my high school career, was doing theater and chorus, if you can believe that.
I would have never have thought that, just from seeing everything you've done so far.
Well, prepare to be surprised.
Hey,
there's a lot you don't know.
That's the good thing about the show. Everyone has a story from what we've seen maybe on a resume or on a page. And it's the fun part about this job is to learn even more about the person. Did you have any motivations or someone that you inspired to be?
Oh, interesting. You know what I've had a lot of fun watching recently is the Last Dance documentary that came out. Did you watch that at all?
Yes.
Because that was my childhood. I mean, we had one basketball hoop on the garage, one that was portable, so we could play full court games of pickup basketball on my driveway. And then we would lower the rim down and just have dunk contests, and each of us would be either Scottie Pippen or Michael Jordan or other players that were popular outside of Chicago at the time, like Sean Kemp or Penny Hardaway, whatever it was. We'd each take on the moniker of whatever athlete we wanted to be. And I don't know. So watching The Last Dance was sort of like a callback to my childhood because we had two back-to-back three-peats. That's talk about captivating the imagination of a child. Like I genuinely, through middle school, up until the point of like, I don't know, I stopped growing height-wise. Like the NBA is my future. And once I realized the NBA wasn't my future, that's when I started doing theater. But I was still an athlete. I enjoyed it, but no, competitively, I really wanted to be a great basketball player. And I suppose ultimately looking back on it now, my interests were just too divided. I loved playing and trying new things so much that I wasn't dedicated to becoming the best basketball player of all time. It was the idea that I had of it. So I guess early on, you could say that a lot of the players from that Chicago Bulls dynasty were on that list of people that I looked up to. Probably Steve. I think somewhere I still have a Steve Kerr autographed hat. You know, it's been fun to see him coaching for Golden State now because I thought, yeah, that guy, that could be me. That could be me playing for the Bulls in, 10 years or whatever. But yeah.
What was your goal? Was it just probably being a basketball player, or when you transferred to being in theater, did you have a different goal now?
Oh, the goal changed pretty quickly mid high school because I think I basically went from riding the bench as a basketball player, played on the soccer team too, and I rode the bench, and I was a strong bench warmer, very good at my job. And then I got when I auditioned for the school play, I actually got cast as the lead my junior year, and I thought, oh, this is way better than riding the bench because now I'm actually on stage contributing, and I have a skill set that's seemingly valued here, and I can bring that to this production. And then I ended up getting a commercial agent downtown Chicago, maybe my senior year of high school. So now I was driving downtown by myself, taking off from high school early to drive to the city to go on an audition for a TV show or a commercial. And I thought, oh, this is so fun. It was, and then the objective became, okay, how can I be more or less an actor? How can I get on television? How can I get into film? And so my first 2 years of college, then I actually majored in acting at the University of Illinois in Champaign while I continued to audition for various projects. And then end of my sophomore year is when my mom passed away, and it was just really, really hard. It was difficult to know which way was up. The grief was pretty all-consuming. It is sort of like this cloud, this fog that's hovering over you. And it was hard to make, it was right in the middle of my collegiate career. And for me, at least, that loss made it difficult to make practical decisions for the future. So I drifted a little bit at that point.
Did you kind of use the inspiration with your mom to continue and going for stuff and knowing that she's there with you no matter where you are?
That's an interesting question. I don't want to say no. I was just so sad. And it was, and I just missed her. And I'm trying to think of what sort of pulled me back into the ring, I guess. Part of it was my friend Becca. She was working at a casting agency in Chicago at the time. So it had been years since I'd done anything athletic. It had been years since I'd gone on any auditions. I had finally graduated with a degree in marketing communication because I thought that's a practical, applicable skill that I could have and looks good on a resume. Took a couple internships in media relations and PR, and it just wasn't for me, but I wasn't sure what was. So Becca was like, hey, I've got an audition coming up for this Coke commercial. Do you want to come in and check it out? So I did. I did not book it, but it sort of reminded me of that desire, that passion, that ambition, other than just trying to navigate, which heavily my worldview, my spiritual worldview at the time specifically, and then career-wise, what happens next. So it was probably a good 4 years of not really having much of a strong direction, and not having this sense that, oh, mom is with me and she's going to empower me and inspire me to move forward. It's more like, wow, I'm really turning around right now, and how do I get back on track?
What was like a job that you got from doing commercials and TV that maybe some people would recognize you today? Was there anything
people that somebody would recognize today?
Like if we saw
from that time?
Yeah. Was there any like popular brands you were doing, or was it just local stuff?
No, maybe there was. I did. Goodness gracious! I think I was in a couple of Miller Lite commercials that aired in Canada exclusively. So there might, like, if you have a Canadian audience at all, they might be like, "Oh, that guy."
Now I gotta find this commercial
in America for like a second. It was a holiday commercial for Bud Light, and it's basically you're cheersing, and all the cheersing played out jingle bells or something to that effect. So you see me cheersing someone for like 0.3 seconds, and then I'm gone. I'd be shocked if anyone recognized me from that. The McDonald's commercial that I did, I got cut from the final product, so that one never aired. That was my break.
When you were doing those alcohol commercials, how old were you at that time?
Well, you had to be 25.
Okay, because
this was probably right before Gladiator.
Okay, because I'm thinking if this was like at the beginning of you going and doing auditions, I'm like, you would be under.
Can you imagine?
That just would not be a good sign for them.
No, I must have been at least 25. So 25 was a good year for me. I'll be honest with you. Things really started to turn around at 25 for a time.
Did you get any like perks or anything from those companies? Like, did they pay well or give you free stuff?
No free Miller Lite.
Damn.
You know, which is probably for the better.
Oh.
Bud Light played pretty well because they aired that commercial throughout the holiday season. So there were a number of residuals that came in for that just for that year. They never picked it up for years to come. But that was a good Christmas, I'll say that, especially for doing this, on camera. Nobody should get paid what I got paid for doing this. No, other than that, I can't think of any free stuff.
So after college or graduating from college, what's one thing you learned about yourself that you didn't know at that time?
I think that I learned about myself after college. Well, so to back up just a little bit, I left the acting program at U of I, took a semester off, and worked, and then I ended up studying ministry at a private institute up in Wisconsin for a year. Took another semester off, went to another Bible college in the Chicago suburbs for a semester before I transferred to Columbia. So it took me a long time to get my undergraduate degree in marketing, and part of it was along the way I had an instructor at this private ministry school that said he upheld the value of commitment. And I sort of held on to that. And I thought it's important for me just to finish something that I've started. And it was largely due to his influence that I ended up finishing my college degree at all. And it ended up being more important to me, not even just from a career or educational standpoint, because while I learned a lot in the marketing department, for sure, knowing that college wasn't hard for me. It was just difficult. I don't like studying. I don't like sitting in a classroom. I don't like listening to lectures. Like anything. I don't like reading. All the audiobooks that I listen to are just that. They're audiobooks. So like the whole process of conventional learning like that was tough for me. So to get through all of that and finally finish something that I'd started all these years later with the adversity, emotional predominantly and spiritual, of losing my mom. Like, that was something that I learned about myself, or could at least appreciate that I did the value of following through and finishing something that I started.
I think a lot of people could relate from the experience of not being able to follow through with stuff. Like you said, with conventional learning, I was a person that it's like, get me in the real world. Like, let me show you what I'm able to do. Don't judge me off of what I just learned in a textbook, because a lot of times the textbooks don't really tell you what really happens. Like, I can't say with my business degree that all those tools I'm using today, or it's exactly like how it's supposed to be. And
Sure.
I think I was a person where if I was on top of something, I'm going to complete it no matter what's in my path. And so a lot of my friends have not had that struggle with following through because they just want to give up right away. And I think with you, the obstacles and the challenges you went through, you kept going and you were able to accomplish what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So after your internships, what was that first job you had?
Well, I'm trying to think about this, because I think the two internships that I had, which were awesome. I mean, objectively, for any other person and personality, they would have been so rad. Like, I got to work for the Chicago Marathon in their PR department as an intern, and then work for a medium-sized PR firm downtown, which in and of itself was kind of fun to, I don't know, for the first time in my life, like, buy a pea coat and like have my slacks and my button up and tuck it in and get on the L train. Like, I felt like an adult, you know, like getting on the L and taking it into the city, walking up to the office, the big old office building. It all sounds silly right now, but it's very true. I did kind of feel like an adult for the first time. It just was awful. So I ended up being an extra in a movie for a month after I left that job, which was also a lot of fun. The movie called The Express. It's got Dennis Quaid in it. Who else? Rob Brown, I think. And it was a football film they were filming in Chicago that summer, and I got to be the mascot for the Syracuse Orangemen, which at that time, because it's a period piece, was an actual Indian. So I would be in the makeup trailer every single morning, and they'd put me in the makeup to be the mascot of the Syracuse Orangemen, and they gave me this headdress, and I would just run around up and down the field, and that's how I spent like a month of my summer, which I don't know. I mean, again, it's a period piece. I was about to say, I don't know if you can get away with that today, but like, you can't. That's obviously why that mascot doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. But it was an interesting film to be a part of, and to be on such a massive set, and to see these, to be up and close and personal with the whole production, to see the director work with the actors and to see the actors perform in various stages and all that. That was a really fun experience, and met a few cool people. Like, the extras, we just hang out with each other all day. I mean, it's a lot of sitting around. So that was one thing that I did. And then I got a job at Hollister, working as an assistant manager. I don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's like it's kind of like you go from like one thing, and then you go back to like the acting, and then you're kind of like, okay, I did that, and then you go to something else, and then I work at Hollister. It's kind of like you were kind of trying to find what path you were taking, and some people it takes a little bit, and some people they find it right away. So you're just like finding what fits at that time.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, if I could have, like many artists and actors and storytellers, whatever, it's musicians, fill in the blank. Like, it's hard to find consistent work in the field that you love. If I could have been a full-time actor or storyteller at that time, I would have. So, but being an extra in a movie that just was filming in Chicago for a month isn't exactly sustainable. It's not long-term. And I knew that I didn't want to do something. I didn't want to go back to an office and sit at a desk. So, but I needed to make money. Mm-hmm. I needed to make money. And so when that's how I got introduced to retail. So like, you can wear torn up jeans and sandals, you know, and you can work this many days a week. You'll be in the city. If you want to take time off to go audition for a project, go audition for the project, and we'll have someone cover for you. So they were very flexible in that way.
Okay.
And it was during that time that the audition for American Gladiators came up. And so I had the day off and I went and auditioned for Gladiators, ended up booking that.
So before you were going for Gladiators, did you watch the show before or like in the back in the 90s and was a fan of it?
Oh yeah. As a kid growing up, I used to watch the show and I thought it was awesome, you know, and it truly was a dream come true to be on that show because it was so fun. And I did meet Dan Clark, Nitro. He was the one that sort of introduced us, who at the final callback in LA, he was the one that was showing us how to joust and what his technique was on various obstacles and everything. So that was a lot of fun and also very surreal too, to be like, oh, this is the guy that I used to watch, you know, growing up, and now he's trying to teach me how to joust. He did a terrible job because the joust was, it's not his fault. Obviously it's mine, but the joust was my absolute worst event in that show.
What was the tryouts like? Because back then they kind of showed what the tryouts were, like with the people trying out, but we don't really get to see that much in the revival version.
Yeah. Well, the first tryout was an open call. I don't know how many cities they had, maybe four to six, I would guess, open calls around the country. Ours was in Chicago, which is like 3 miles from where I was living at the time. And there was so I waited 6 hours in line.
Ooh.
Because what else did I have to do?
I mean, if you're passionate about it, it's worth it after all.
No, I know for sure. I joke around about it. Actually, a good buddy of mine since college that I saw just a couple days ago, Ed, he was getting his accelerated MBA at Northwestern at the time, and so he waited to audition with me for the first 2 hours, and then he was all like, yeah, man, I got real things to do with my life.
Oh my God.
I gotta go. I'm like, well, I have the day off, so I'm gonna stay here. So waited 6 hours, and then it was as many pull-ups as you could do in 30 seconds. There was a shuttle run with maybe some push-ups in between, and then a 50 or a 60, probably a 50-yard dash or a 50-meter dash. You had to do it in under 6 seconds or something like that. Then there was a quick 5-minute interview. And then they said, cool, if we like what we see, then we'll bring you back in a couple days and for a longer interview. So then, sure enough, I got a call a couple days later, went down they had rented out some hotel rooms in Chicago and set up the cameras. So I had a longer, maybe 30-minute interview at that time. And then they had me put a video together of my athleticism. And goodness, what else? There was like a 40-page application. And then there was the final callback in LA. That was 4 or 5 days, I think. Like, it was significant. Like, there was a huge process to it. I mean, when I think about the difference of that versus like American Ninja Warrior, as an example, like you submit your audition tape, and if they like you, come be on the show. Whereas this was a multi-step process to like be part of.
It's just crazy that like the amount of steps to just get on the show is just, I mean, they're trying to find the best of the best. And it's kind of, I wish they kind of showed like the trial part, and just so for us as viewers that we could see like, what do these people go through, instead of, okay, we know now their story, but we want to know, well, how did they get there in a way?
Yeah.
When you were about to tape your episode, what was going through your mind during that time?
I mean, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of adrenaline. The episode, the way that they structured that first season, and probably the second to memory, is that I'm trying to remember, I think there were 24 athletes that they had, 12 men and 12 women. And they would set up one obstacle, and anyone that was competing in that obstacle in the first round of competition from any episode competed on it. So you'd have 8 rounds of this obstacle. So the first one was the gauntlet. And I remember I was waiting on set, we were shooting in LA, which was just exciting in and of itself. My dad and my brother were in the audience, so that was really cool. And of course, the hosts were Hulk Hogan and Layla Ali. And so Layla Ali is doing this interview with me on the set like staring down the gauntlet, and I'm like, it's just all very surreal. There's a bunch of lights, bunch of camera. I'm thinking about what my face is doing. You know, my brother and my dad are watching, and then they bring out the gladiators, and the first time the gladiators come out, they're doing their old showboating, flexing and stuff. And then some director calls cut and like, okay, go back to one. Let's bring them out the gladiators again because they didn't like the first take. So then they bring out the gladiators again, and they're like, "Rrr." And I'll be honest, I think the second time the gladiators came out, I'm like, oh god, this is just a little bit of show business here. So I'm not scared about these guys because they can turn it off like that and turn it back on just with the camera. It's still very intimidating because the gauntlet was the event that terrified me the most because it's like it's a very small space. They got these big pads. They're huge dudes, and they're just trying to get in your way. And once your momentum is stopped in that small area, it's hard to accelerate again. But yeah, all the emotions. It was excitement. There was adrenaline. It was like I wanted to do well. I was super hyped up, and I really was. I was thinking about like, what is my face doing something weird? Like I didn't know how to listen to Layla Ali and be like, be normal, be normal. Like I don't know, it's weird.
It's probably the actor in you. It's like, hold on.
It was, yeah.
Facial cues.
What's my motivation?
Yeah. Where's my script? Hold on.
Yeah, I didn't know. Can I get some dialogue?
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
Would you say your size was a disadvantage? Because I have to do my research. So the episode said 5'10" at the time. And all those gladiators.
And still 5'10". Right.
And the gladiators are like,
and then I hit
tall.
Then I hit my 27-year-old growth spurt, and now I'm 6'7".
Hey, you never know these days.
That'd be awesome. I always wanted to be a 6-footer. Never made it. Never broke the 6-foot barrier.
Yeah, I can say the same thing. I'm about the same height as you, so I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Was the size hard in some of those events? Because you said like joust or you were very fast on the wall. Like you were climbing up that.
Yeah. Well, so one of my jobs during college was I worked at a Lifetime Fitness in the Chicago suburbs, and they in the rock climbing facility, and we had 5 different auto belays. So you could just clip in and climb the thing as fast as you could. And so if we were setting up or like it was a light evening or something, it was just some downtime, I would just clip in and try to climb these routes as fast as I could. So when I got on set and that was one of the events, I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that pretty easily. Plus the holds were huge, just like huge jugs all the way up. But yes, speed was an advantage in certain events like that one. And my size was a disadvantage in the joust for sure. Because I mean, even the second time I jousted Titan, there wasn't even it wasn't even hitting so much as he just kind of shoved it. It was like a slow sort of push.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I have all the momentum on my side here because he was at least 70 pounds heavier than me, and shoved me right in the water. It wasn't even fair. It was so silly and embarrassing.
Well,
it's embarrassing to lose that fast.
If you look at like the older season or like from the 90s, the contenders kind of had a chance. It just seems like the revival contenders didn't really have a chance in the joust. It's kind of like one hit and they're gone. And it's kind of like, okay, is this like, now it just kind of seems like it's a movie now and we're waiting for like the underdogs to take them off. But did it feel like that? Like you guys had a chance, or it's just whatever happened?
I played to my strengths on the show. So like I knew that as long as the events that I was given corresponded to my strengths, I would take full advantage.
Okay.
So I think probably the event that was sort of the most even territory was the hang tough, where you're on this grid of gymnastics rings, you're swinging and trying to make your way from platform to platform. Because size, it can work to your advantage with reach, I suppose, but I don't know. There's nothing really about quickness other than because momentum is heavily involved and the strategy of that. So I think that was sort of an even playing field as far as events go. But I had a strategy in mind, and I had learned how to move laterally in addition to going forward on the rings pretty quickly. And that one was a lot of fun. My favorite probably by far. I think what other events. Oh, and then Powerball was speed was useful, but once Powerball is the one where you had like you try to take these balls like dodgeball sized balls and put them in little canisters along the way. So speed was useful, but once they wrapped you up, it was scary. Like if they catch you, they tackle you.
Yeah.
And I mean, really all they need to do is get the ball out of your hand. But if they catch you, they're going to throw you to the ground. And I remember that first week, one of the competitors, he got tackled during Powerball, and it broke his tibia and his fibia because the dude just landed on top of him, 270 pounds on his leg, snapped his tibia and fibia, and he was out of the competition. And so that was in my head while we were going through it as well, to the point where I'm like, I'm going to stay light on my feet, and if I get wrapped up, I'm going down. Like, don't fight it. There's no use for me, in fighting in any. It's a 60-second competition. Most of them are. Pyramid included, like where you run up the pyramid and try to make it to the top. Like if you get wrapped up, just go down. Because if you fight it, that's when you're going to hurt yourself. And I didn't want to put my tibia and fibia against someone who was 280 pounds. I just didn't. Like I don't need to learn that about myself. I will go to the ground. I'll get another ball and I'll try again.
Did you like how they added water into the mix? Like falling into water?
Yeah, I mean, if only for camera, it looked really cool. And in the Eliminator, that final obstacle course where you went over the first wall and then you jump underwater and they had flames, across the water and you're swimming underneath it. It just looked cool. And I'm all for things looking cool on camera. And that did. So yeah, I was a fan.
So I did an interview with an old gladiator from the UK named Ace. And he said the same thing. The water was much better falling in than crash pads. Because water just goes straight in. Crash pads, like you said, don't fight it. You can hurt yourself falling on the pads.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting because some people like it, but the flames were cool. I will say the whole look of it was cool. It kind of looked like a movie set in a way for us.
Yeah.
So that was cool. When you found out that the winner was going to be a gladiator next season, what was your thoughts on that?
Well, they were very careful in the wording throughout season 1 that it's the chance to become an American Gladiator. So when they finally had, there was no real certainty, at least for me, until they officially cast the season 2 Gladiators. And we were part of that whole process too. They again, maybe 3 months after, maybe even 2 months, 2-3 months after we had filmed season 1, because it was a hit, we immediately got back to filming season 2, and they flew us out to LA and put us up in a hotel. And we went through sort of tryouts together, which consisted just mainly being on set and, okay, you're going to climb the wall today as fast as you can. You're going to do vertigo and see how you do. We're going to time each other. And they set up a makeshift hang tough, and you're going to go against each other. And there were physical exams, medical, all that. And ultimately, I don't know, character tests, I'm sure. Because there were some athletes, prospective gladiators from that week that did not get cast. And so I was tentative. I didn't want to get excited about it if it wasn't going to happen. But once I did find out that they were having me on the show, I thought, yeah, like it was incredibly exciting, because now I got to be on both sides of it. And this dream and this momentum of being on television, which is something, again, like we talked about, I always wanted to be, like, since high school, even in middle school, like the acting thing. And then once I got an agent, I'm like, how can I do this all the time? Because it's so much fun. And it just so happened that because I had a background in athleticism, in addition to the acting and the auditioning that I had been in the practice of doing in Chicago, that sort of my interests met in such a way where I could do something that I truly enjoyed on a platform that really excited me. And to have that opportunity to do it a second season in a different role was awesome.
What events from this, because second season they added a lot more events. What events were your favorite to do?
Well, they didn't put me on a lot of them because they like, again, camera. They like the camera look and of, the David versus Goliath, right? And some of the contestants were taller than me, bigger than me, so they weren't interested in putting me on the joust because that's not impressive. If the gladiator they're going up against is like 3 inches shorter and gets knocked into the water, that's just not the television they're going for. So they put me on the wall a lot, which was a lot of fun. And there was one event, what was it called? I only got to do it once. I think it was called Racquetball, actually, where they had you connected to this hydraulic system, and you just hit a button and it would just yank you 30 feet into the sky. And the contestants were trying to take the ball and make a basket, and we were trying to block it. And while I only got to do that event once, and I never timed it right to actually block my contestant, like I just whiffed every single time, it was still so much fun to hit a button and get yanked 30 feet into the air. And yeah, that was probably the most fun.
When I saw Racquetball, it kind of reminded me of, you remember the event Swing Shot, where they were on the bungee cord?
Is Swing Shot?
Swing Shot, they were on, in the 90s, they were on bungee cords and they jumped off to the ground and then shoots them up, and they try to block them from grabbing the balls before they headed back.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded me of that, but it's like, what, they didn't want to put the Matt Morgan, the Beast, who's 7 feet tall, on Racquetball or any of those events? Or because like you said, they didn't want to put you on Powerball because they wanted to put the big guys on.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like,
I also don't know. I don't know what the weight limit was on that system. Truly, I mean, yanking 160 pounds up into the air is a lot easier than 300. So that it's possible that was a logistical concern, but I don't know.
Is there any gladiators or anyone from the show that you still talk to today, or who are you close with at that time?
Occasionally Hollywood, Yates, Wolf. He goes by Don Yates, Hollywood. He actually, this is years ago before I moved back to California, which is where I am now. He had a rodeo. He was still doing some he calls it bullfighting. Like, he's like rodeo clown. Mm-hmm. So when the cowboys fall off the bull, he distracts the bull so that the cowboys can go to safety. And he had one of those events in Chicago, and I got to go see him do his thing. Crazy, absolutely nuts to put yourself between. Yeah, I mean, another human. Obviously, there's some valor in it, obviously, to try to protect the athlete from who just fell. But man, I don't zero interest in doing that in my own life. He said, I think he's only been gored once, but he got gored. He got gored once, like horn through his side. Ow. And medical consequences, like severe stuff. But that was fun to watch him do his thing. And then I met up with him once, maybe a few years ago. We've sort of fallen off, but that's who I was probably closest to for a time.
Looking back at your time on American Gladiators, did you gain a skill or something you, like we talk about, learning about yourself in a way?
Oh, did I gain a skill? I might have lost a skill.
That's not good.
Well, because how do I say this? It felt like, in a lot of ways, it felt like the hard work and the obstacles had learned the lessons necessary. And now I was finally at a point of where I could enjoy and appreciate what had been, because it was hard for me to get my college degree, and it was hard to work through the grief of my mom. And even auditioning in Chicago for projects and missing out on them is hard, because you get that level of all those no's and all that rejection. And yeah, navigating what the future and what that looks like. And so to finally go through all these steps, like we talked about before, to get on the show, to win the show, to become a gladiator, there was so much momentum that I thought, man, like finally we're here, and I want to say, like, relax a little bit, or just appreciate it. And then ultimately there wasn't a season 3, and the ratings dropped and the show got canceled. So now I'm back to, well, now what do I do? Do I put Gladiator on my resume? Do I go back to Hollister? Or what's the next move here? And I think I let up a little bit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I can see how that mindset at the time did not serve me in further planning for the future.
So a lot of the Gladiators revivals didn't really last that long. Some countries it lasted 2 seasons, 1 season. In your opinion, why do you think the ratings were as low as it was?
In my opinion, first season aired during the writer's strike, so there was very little competition. Mm-hmm. And then second season, they brought it back super fast. They brought it back like 3 months later. So, and I think theoretically that was the right move, because this is popular right now. It's got momentum. We need to move forward with it. And like American Ninja Warrior does now, it's a great summer program. And so you can look forward to it June through, early September, end of August or whatever. And that's your summer program that you can watch with your family. And I think they wanted that, and it really should have worked. But because I think the television cycle was a little strange at the time, we premiered once the writer's strike ended, we were going up against scripted programming that had been off air for months. And people were watching the series or season finales of these shows that they love. And they're just not gonna skip Bones season finale or whatever for Gladiators. They're just not going to. On top of the fact that, at least from a couple of people that I saw after season 2 aired, they're like, hey, nice job on season 1. When's season 2 coming out? And I'm like, it already happened, friend. I don't know how you missed it.
Wow.
It absolutely aired. And so I don't know. So I think they made the right call. I think they went for it. I think maybe if we had waited at least 3 more weeks to hype it up a little bit more and let these other series that had been delayed end, that we would have been more successful. They also changed the format to maybe a 90-minute or 2-hour format instead of an hour. Like, they really just milked it for all it was worth. Again, they did the best that they could. But those are only my theories, but there you have it.
So they show repeats of it all the time on Pluto TV. Do you happen to watch yourself sometimes?
I don't even know what Pluto TV is.
So it's an app, and it's like
it's
a free TV app. I feel like I'm sponsoring them right now.
This episode brought to you by Pluto TV.
So they have a bunch of channels, and one of the channels is American Gladiators. So they show every season back to back to back. And I think I've had the app for like 6 months, and I think they just keep repeating each season. And so they go through all the 90s, and then they do the revival. So now,
I mean, it's probably really cheap.
It's free. It's
Well, I mean, for them to host the content. I'm not getting residuals anymore. That's for sure.
Do you happen to watch yourself on the show, or you're like, that was my past, I don't watch it?
It gets a little bit stranger, I think, every year. Not that I watch it every year, but as I look back on it now, and it's been 10, 11, 12 years. I look so young, and I don't, it's not embarrassing for me. It was a really fun time in my life. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, but I don't watch it very often, but it's not because I dislike watching it. It's not really on my radar at that point. I suppose in a lot of ways I like to, I talk about it more than I watch it. I don't know how to answer that.
So after Gladiators, when did American Ninja Warrior come around for you?
About 3 years later, I think. And that was, honestly, I found myself back working a desk job again, because one of the guys I went to high school with, he had started a web development company, needed a project manager. And again, like if I could have found a way to keep doing what I was doing, I would have. But the economy tanked, right? We were in the middle of the recession, and it was hard. It was hard to find work at the time, and Gladiators was gone, and I didn't know how to. So now you find yourself in a position. Well, you got to make money in order to continue to pursue your passion. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated my buddy's creativity and his ambition to start a company of his own, and I just liked him personally. So I thought this is a good fit for me to just be in the suburbs, back in Chicago, and contribute to a company, get a paycheck, and figure out what the next moves are. And one of the developers for that company was the one that said, you should really audition for American Ninja Warrior and show me some clips. And I looked up, it was on G4 at the time, so I went to G4 TV's website, and applications were currently open. Like, it was this 2-week window or whatever, and I had found it right in time. So I just sent them a reel that was mostly me as a gladiator, because I thought, you can't say no to this story. I'm not.
It's free promo for them.
You want a former gladiator on your show, don't you? That's basically what I did. And I got to compete on that show as well, which was a lot of fun and a lot harder than Gladiators. A lot harder.
I can believe that one.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging obstacle you faced on that show?
On Ninja?
On Ninja Warrior.
Well, I fell on the salmon ladder, although I don't feel like that should be the most challenging, because I've completed many a salmon ladder in my day, so I don't want to call it the most challenging. That first season 2 that I competed, they were still taking us to Japan. So I qualified top 10. We went to Japan, and I fell on the third obstacle in stage 1, which was the rolling escargot, where you sort of like plaster yourself up against this wheel that rolls down a platform. And season 6, they created that obstacle in Venice Beach, and I succeeded on that one, but that was a lot more reasonable. Like the momentum that of the centripetal force, the momentum that was just like trying to pull you off that wheel on the Japanese version was ridiculous. Like, it was like boom, 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 boom. And I desperately tried to hold on, and I just couldn't. And it was so disappointing. It's so disappointing to fly to the other side of the country, to think that you're going to do so well on this course, and then to fall so early on in the first stage, especially for something you couldn't even train for.
Yeah. What was the mindset? So when you didn't complete an obstacle and it was over for that run, how did you get your mindset going to be able to stay focused and try for next year or continue on training for it?
Well, at the time, it was just fun. It was a lot of fun. And my worldview has been challenged and upended multiple times throughout my life. But at that time, I had been praying pretty hard for an opportunity to I just want something to train for. I want something to train for that can give me a focus and get me excited about life again, and have me chasing something, I guess, bigger than myself, that aligned with not only my passion, but what I was good at. Mm-hmm. And that came along, and by qualifying top 10 that second season, they wanted me back for a third season and then the fourth season. And I thought, yeah, this is it. Like, this is something I can train for, that I'm excited about, meeting new people, learning about what parkour was and free running for the first time. And then I got to train at the Tempest Academies that were now opening up for the first time in Los Angeles, and met a whole new group of people that were training a different way that I had ever experienced before. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And it was easy to get excited about it. Cause I thought, I can keep doing better. I can keep getting better at this thing. And this is exactly what I've been looking for and praying for. And then season 5, that's when I was asked to host a web series on how to train to be a Ninja Warrior. And that was, again, sort of this reminder of like, oh yeah, that's right. I love being on camera. I just do. This has been part of my narrative for a long time. And I've just had a difficult time finding ways to make it sustainable long term. And so that was much like when my friend Becca had invited me to audition for that Coke commercial all those years ago, it was another reminder of like what I originally had in mind for my life and what I truly enjoyed. And that was cool. That was a really fun experience.
So Ninja Warrior gave you kind of the opportunity to become like a content creator with your YouTube and the web series, where you were being around a lot of people who were on the show. Was that a great opportunity for you, where you got to learn from the people who became experts and who are big names on Ninja Warrior now?
Oh, sorry. Ask the question again. I want to make sure I understand it correctly.
So Ninja Warrior gave you the opportunity, and you had a YouTube channel where you were working with other fellow warriors. Was that the opportunity you were looking for, like with the web series that they gave you the opportunity to do, and you would be able to make content?
Yeah, well, Ninja Quickie came out of, I've been working for so again, much like my entire professional career, if we want to call it that, I've had to find ways to make money to make ends meet. And I was working for a nutrition company, Quest Nutrition at the time, and they were very much about finding ways to create opportunities for yourself to do what you love. And I was highly encouraged by a few of the people that I was working with at the time for me to create a series that I didn't have to be reliant on somebody else to say, here's money, here's the opportunity and the platform, go do what you want to do. So I created Ninja Quickie because I found I could do it very quickly. Stupid. I found that I could film like multiple episodes in one day, and through learning to edit on Premiere Pro, I could edit all the episodes myself. I could host them all myself, and I had friends that were willing to help me film them. And a lot of the athletes early on wanted to be a part of that. And for me, the strategy became like, I want to host this thing to prove, or at least showcase, have something that I can point to say, he's not only an athlete, folks, like he's a personality and he can host his own program or hold his own in an interview with somebody, so that it wasn't a question, or if the opportunity, basically, so I'd be ready for the opportunity in the future. Mm-hmm. And I kept in touch with American Ninja Warrior producers, and that's how that eventually led to working on to be the sideline reporter of Spartan season 1, because the producers gave me a shot, because I had kept in touch with them and kept following up and creating my own content, because I wanted to get back on camera on the national stage and have an opportunity to showcase my skill set there.
So talk about those TV opportunities you took. The Spartan Spartan, and then Battle Frog, I think it was
Battle Frog.
I remember, actually, I did watch it when it come on, but I can't tell you what happened on it now, because it was, I don't even know if it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's so sad because it's not around nowadays. So I think for people, it's like you watched it and go on YouTube and watch it again.
Yeah, no, I mean, much like Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge, where they modified the Mud Run brand to be more of a televised game show, obstacle competition show structure. Battle Frog was a mud run that existed that you could sign up for and just go do a Battle Frog race. Mm-hmm. And so these two producers that I ended up working with in the future, they had partnered up with Battle Frog, created a new competition model and format, and basically branded it Battle Frog, and were able to air that on ESPN. So it was a fun series, because there were co-ed teams of 4 people charging down I think it was a 400-meter course of, I don't remember, maybe even 16 obstacles or something like that. And it was relay race style. So each person would handle a certain leg of the course. And it was, very much military-esque. And because I want to say Battle Frog, the race series at the time, had a relationship with the Navy SEALs or something like that. So we had some military that were a part of it. And I got to do the commentary with this guy, Ron Pitts, and he was an absolute pro. And he was sort of like the straight man, and I got to be the color guy. So I just got to, have more fun with it and just be over the top and enthusiastic and call it how I see it. it was a lot of fun to work with him because he was so professional and on point with everything. I learned a lot sitting next to him because it's one thing to just let loose and fly off the handle and be the personality, and it's another to lead the show the way that he did. So that was really fun.
When you were doing those jobs, did you want to get out onto that course and like be an athlete and all that, or you were like
interesting,
being in the booth?
I was content. I mean, granted, once the competition was over, they're like, hey, go give it a shot. And so we ended up running. I did the last leg of the course, which was the only one that looked fun to me personally, because it had the giant wall and the slide into the water and the rings. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this pretty fast. So I don't know if that's on my social media somewhere, or maybe just on my phone, but I did try it a little bit. But no, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss being an athlete because I feel like I had so many amazing experiences. Not only 2 seasons of Gladiators, 5 seasons of American Ninja Warrior, Team Ninja Warrior, competing in Japan and China. I'm like, I've had a lot of fun with this. And what I want to be and where I want my life and profession to go is in this direction, which is to be on camera, just as the personality. And so, yeah, no, didn't miss it. No, not really.
So when you look back at your career, that you've had this image of being Rocket, and are you trying to kind of put that behind you and trying to say, hey, I'm Evan Dollard, this is who I am, this is the experience he has, not I was a gladiator from back then?
Well,
or
I used to be
both and use it to your advantage.
Here's the thing: if I can use it to my advantage, I will. I don't know that it's gonna be that valuable in the future, because as popular, basically, I mean, American Ninja Warrior really took off after season 6, and like even up until season 4, people were I would say, hey, I'm doing American Ninja Warrior, and they thought it was like cage fighting because it just hadn't hit the popular zeitgeist yet. Like it just wasn't part of the cultural conversation. So they hear ninja and warrior and they think, oh, like, is it like the UFC? Oh, what? No. Look at me. I'm not going to risk this face. But
that's the actor in you.
That's the actor.
There's my stunt double.
Well, someone else is going to have to come in here and take this punch. Not this guy. But yeah, no, so it really took off, and only there was, I mean, then you had sort of the rise of what you alluded to earlier, where those that were lifers in Ninja Warrior, like Drew Dreschel or Flip Rodriguez or fill in the blank, even Grant McCartney came onto the scene then, Jesse Graff, like all these people who I had competed with for several seasons, and we're just like doing our thing. All of a sudden, it becomes this phenomenon and this sport, and now ninja gyms are popping up all over the place. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I showed up season 2 in Venice for the first time, and they asked me if I was a CrossFit athlete or a parkour or a free runner, and I didn't know what either of those were. And my first time trying a salmon ladder was on the course because you couldn't find one anywhere. But now it's a sport, and an international one at that. And it's fun to see. I had the chance to do commentary with Grant McCartney for UNX earlier at the end of last year. I don't know if you saw any of that series at all. We filmed at Ultimate Ninjas in Naperville in Illinois, and had a great production team behind us, and it was so much fun to do the commentary with Grant McCartney. But these athletes this is how they train now. They train to be ninja athletes. They're not trying to make the basketball team. They're not trying to be the next Steve Kerr. They're like, no, I'm going to train this way because I have a gym that I can go to however many times a week and build up the skill in this area, which I find fascinating. And it just wasn't the case when I got started in this. So I don't know. I went on a bit of a tangent there. To answer your question.
No, it's fine.
Something about being Rocket. I don't think people recognize it as much. And they do. It's awesome, and it's really flattering for me because, again, I've had such fun experiences that I'm really appreciative of those experiences, those opportunities that I've had, and if someone else can find a way to appreciate them as well, then it really makes me smile. It puts a smile on my face. It does. So if I can use it to my advantage, I will. But yeah, if I just need to be Evan Dollar from here on out and nobody remembers that I was ever the Rocket, that's fine too.
I think like even before this interview, I think if anytime I've heard your name, the first thing that comes to my mind is Rocket, because that's like, I'm a Gladiator fan, so that's the first thing. But listening to the story and stuff, it's kind of like I'm really getting to know the person that's Evan. And I like that because everyone has a story. Everyone thinks differently from what they've gone through. And you mentioned how when you started in American Ninja Warrior, parkour wasn't a huge thing in the world. And now it's like gyms, people are sending in videos, people are taping themselves doing it. Do you sometimes go to those gyms nowadays and try free running and all that? Or you're kind of like, that's not my thing?
Well, as I've gotten a little bit older, well, not only is it not a skill that I need as readily, like, because I'm not training for, I don't need to be ninja ready for the next season, right? So I don't have to train that way. And I enjoyed for a time, especially at Tempest Academy, South Bay, and the one that's up in Northridge here in Los Angeles, learning new skills safely in an indoor environment and being able to test myself in that way. But it can be hard on the body. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just stick to the pull-ups and do my sprints and some plyometric exercises and all that, and just make sure that I'm functional and still explosive and that my body is responsive, but I don't need to push myself in that way anymore. And I try to find, I don't know, those levels. I don't want to, it sounds apathetic, or I don't know how it sounds. But you need to, it's just not, I'm not looking for wins in my life physically in that way anymore. So it's been a while. It's actually been a while since I've been to a free running gym. But I don't know, even when I was at Ultimate Ninjas Naperville shooting the UNX series, we did Grant and I each did some obstacle overviews. So we had to do them for camera, but I wanted to anyway. I just like to see if I still, like, you see an obstacle, I'm like, it's that part is still there. I don't need to be part of the competition and try to win and try to podium and all that. But there's part of me that looks at something and thinks, yeah, I got to try that. I got to see if I can do it.
So will we ever see you on an American Ninja Warrior again?
I've gotten that question a few times. And my answer right now is that if Team Ninja Warrior, which became American Ninja Warrior Ninja versus Ninja, I think is the title that it last was. I think it was on USA Network. If that were ever to come back, and if I were able to be on a team with my brother, Ryan, then I would do it. I would spend a couple months in Chicago. He and I would train. We'd pick a ninja gym. We'd train together, and we'd go and compete and see how well we could do side by side. Because I think we'd both get a lot out of that, and if nothing else, be a fun memory to make with him. So probably not on regular American Ninja Warrior, but if there was ever an opportunity to do Team Ninja Warrior with my brother, that would be, I'd have to take it. I'd have to take it. And I'd have some catching up to do. I really would.
So which brother is the best at completing a course, you or your brother? Because there was some videos that you did post with you and your brother versus another.
Yes.
So
we did 2 Ninja Quickie videos. I'm probably this much better, but that's mainly experience, because however many seasons I've done in ninja and parkour gyms that I've been to and obstacles that I've been on, I've just had more experience. But he truly is as close to a genetic equal as you can get, like without being a twin. And we have a really playful competitiveness and very supportive of one another. And I don't even want to be, I know that if he competed as much as I competed, he would be on the same exact level, if not better than me.
Has it been a great bonding time for you guys? Were you guys always close, or was this something that brought you guys even closer because it's something that you guys could be both passionate about?
Me and my brother?
Yeah.
Well, it's family has always been really important. And for anyone that's been through a loss, like the loss of a parent, loss of a mother, it puts strain on the relationships, and it has a way of, it can draw people together or it can pull people apart, and sometimes it does both. And so there have been seasons in life where my brother and I have been closer than others. But ultimately, like, Gladiator was one that really brought the family together, especially being able to fly them out to LA and have them right up next to the gauntlet cheering me on and have their support. He told me during that time to trust my athleticism. That was sort of his encouragement to me. And I really held on to that. It was just such a simple thing to think about, because when all the nerves and the camera and everything else is going on, just trust your athleticism. Like, you know, you have the skill set, ignore everything else and just execute. And now doing Ninja Quickies together and being on the show, and coming out to LA was tough. I think we separated a little bit because he was starting a family. He's got 4 kids.
Wow.
And that takes a huge amount of energy and attention to that. And I was out in LA figuring things out as I do. And now we're, again, the doing the Ninja Quickies and competing together was a fun opportunity to bring us like closer together and have a reason to spend that time competing with one another. So we'll always love each other. And I hope that the level of closeness that we share now, which has been consistent for the last few years, just continues on.
So what does the future look like for you, professionally or personally?
Yeah, great question. Well, certainly I think a lot of people are asking similar questions right now, because it's like, well, there's so much uncertainty. Like, there are very few people that saw a global pandemic coming, very few.
Yeah.
And how are we going to react to it? And how are we going to respond to that? And people have been out of work. And certainly in the industry, the entertainment industry, a lot of production, if not all production, just shut down. And they're finding ways to open that back up. But there's been relatively few opportunities, on-camera opportunities, at least for me, auditions coming in the last 6 months or so. And we hope that UNX gets another season, because that was a lot of fun, and I'd love to continue to do the commentary for that. But what does that look like practically? Do we have the same? I mean, it necessitates sort of the budget that can substantiate creating a bubble and flying people in and keeping them in quarantine and making sure that everybody is safe. So you definitely have to have money behind it. You know, there's a lot of unknowns. I'd love to keep doing commentary, because it's one of my favorite things to do, is to connect the audience to the action based on my experience as an athlete. And it's just fun for me to be on camera. And also storytelling. When I looked back at my career, storytelling has been the common denominator, whether it was acting or even telling my own story on American Ninja Warrior. And I've been doing a lot of writing as well, and trying to pitch various scripts that I've come up with. Most of them scripted, like 30-minute single camera comedies and some comedy features. And that's a whole new world that I'm trying to navigate and align with various producers and try to get into rooms to pitch what the projects are. But that's going to be slow for a time, and everybody sort of recognizes that. And when it comes back, it's going to be very competitive. Mm-hmm. So the storytelling doesn't stop. The hustle doesn't end. It's just a matter of how do we piece this all together, find a way to make a living. And ultimately my sort of working mission statement at the moment for my personal and professional life is to add heart and humor to the cultural conversation through really good stories. And that can be someone else's really good story. With me as a producer, that can be, you know, highlighting what I've overcome in my own life, if that's something that's useful, or maybe even doing a podcast. I don't know. But I'm going to continue to write. I'm going to continue to audition, continue to create, and look for opportunities of my own, and see where things go.
I will say the pandemic has played a huge part in my life. I was furloughed for a couple months, and
oh man, yeah.
And when I got the news, I was like fighting, trying to be like, whoa, why me? Like, why do I have to go through this? And so
yeah,
it was a great opportunity to do like a self-reflection in a way. And some of my friends and I, we wanted to do a podcast on like sports and going and talking about that. But I'm like, it's kind of hard to get everyone together. And I'm like, I want to do something where I can talk about people's stories and incorporate my story in a way. And I have no regrets making this because it's been honestly the best experience ever. Never thought I'd be talking to the people that I get to talk to, like yourself, because I've seen you on TV, I've seen you on different shows. And when I get those emails and I get those responses where people want to come on the show and talk, because I also view myself, I'm just a guy in Missouri who doesn't have a big name in the world, but it's all about being passionate about what you're doing. And I always use the whole line, our mission is real life stories, real motivations to inspire all generations. Everyone's got a story and can make an impact in someone's life. If it impacts one person, to me, I did something right. So being able to tell these stories and even learning, I mean, I learned something about myself in every interview I do. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I can't wait to see what else I do. And I hope you do a podcast. I think you would be great at speaking. I mean, you like to storytell in a way. So
yeah,
I mean, you're like me. We both can talk for hours. I mean, this episode could be like 3 hours long, and I'd be fine with that. So in the entertainment industry that you're in, what tips or advice would you give someone that wants to be in that industry to rise to the challenge?
Ooh. Well, as we were just talking about, it's a tough time. It's a tough time. I think now is the time to think about developing your skill and brainstorming ways to create opportunities for yourself. I think it's easier said than done too, because even still, I want somebody like the call that I got that I could be the sideline reporter for Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge. I thought, yes, this is like basically Hollywood calling. This is all the hard work paying off. And somebody, I can just show up on set and do what I do and focus on that and get better at that skill. And then that only went one season. And now it's like back to the drawing board and figuring out what to do. So it's critical that you continue to develop your skill and find opportunities and create opportunities for yourself. And part of my struggle over the last, well, probably 3.5, 4 years is wondering where my place was within the obstacle competition space. Because I feel like doing the sideline reporting for a national show is like as big as I could have gotten without, like, by hustling on my own. Because I cannot, although I tried to develop, I was working with the Battle Frog producers actually to create our version of an obstacle competition show. And we had a really good team put together. We had some awesome meetings and some fun momentum. That was part of that a few years ago. And then ultimately it didn't pan out because it would take a network that has that distribution to bring and access to advertising dollars in order to create the show at the scale that we wanted to. So I guess if I could simplify what I'm trying to say is like, take the big swings, but find those pitches that you know that you can hit as well, if I can use the analogy. Because, I mean, if we had sold that show, it would have been a game changer, and I could have been a sideline reporter for my own show that I was creator on. Mm-hmm. And there's still a chance that those things could happen. I pitched another obstacle competition show during the quarantine, and again, they didn't pick it up. But I created it. Sat down, brainstormed, built a pitch deck, did whatever I could, used the contacts that I had to reach out and try to generate a sale that way. And it's a big swing. It's a big swing to try to get a show on network television. And a lot of times it necessitates celebrity at this point. So aim high, man, but also focus on what you focus on and invest in what you can control. And do both.
Have you ever thought about, and this is only a question, you kind of get involved in that obstacle course. Have you ever thought about like working with a company that does obstacle course runs, but it's not on TV? Or are you kind of wanting to be on that TV side because that's your niche?
Well, TV is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I do love it. And a lot of the obstacle competitions like Spartan or Tough Mudder, they're not really my scene because they're mostly running. It's like a lot of running. If you're not a good runner, it doesn't matter if you're the best person on the obstacles because the mile you have to cover between that obstacle and the next one, if you can't get
I'd
there,
be dead. I'd be like,
yeah.
Someone give me a drink, please.
So that wasn't, I don't know, the mud runs in particular wasn't really a good fit for me. Not only because it wasn't on television, but also because it doesn't align with what is ultimately just real short course obstacle racing that you find on Gladiators and American Ninja Warrior. So that's why UNX is such a cool opportunity, because Ethan Swanson was one integral in creating that project and bringing it to life. And this is what he's done. And he's been a part of those gyms for a long time. He's been in the Ninja Warrior community for a long time. And he was wanting to create a series that took the athletes as seriously as he took the sport, and did a great job with it, honestly. So hopefully that'll be an opportunity in the future.
And I totally understand where you're coming from with, you're passionate about one area and you want to be able to make it happen. And I think once we get through this pandemic situation, I think a lot more things may be opening up, and maybe they're like, okay, we see how all these shows are doing, because it's kind of like the show Ultimate Tag that's out right now. It's kind of
yeah.
That show blows my mind. I'm like, they took a fun, simple concept and they made this like huge thing with it. But I get addicted to it. I watch it every night or every week that it's on.
Hilarious. There's a lot of Tempest guys on that show. Like Jesse LaFleur, he's done a couple Ninja Quickies.
He wants to be on the show, my show. So we're still trying to work out the details because he's so busy. Like, he's a busy person.
Well,
but
makes sense. Makes sense.
I'm
He's very talented.
Motivated to get him. I'm gonna take it. There's got to be a time for all of us where like it'll work.
Yeah.
Never say never. The final question I have for you, based on your journey and someone that's listening to this interview, what tips or advice would you give them to rise to the challenge, to overcome obstacles and accomplish their goals?
Well, it really does come down to mindset, I think, which I grapple with continually. So a good starting point is the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, which talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and how you can actively pursue having a growth mindset. And really that just helps you to find and creative solutions to problems. Because the truth of the matter is, at least in my experience, some people hit it big and the obstacles are few and far between. That is very rare. Mm-hmm. You are going to experience rejection. The first idea you come up with is going to fail. The second one's probably going to fail too. And it's hard, especially if you care about it. Like the scripts that I've written are probably the things that I care most about, because it's very much an extension of my personality, pulling some stories and perspectives from my own life, putting the characters on the page, building this arc. And when someone says, no, we don't like the story or the voice or the comedy or whatever, that's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there and experience rejection, and that's going to happen. So you have to be prepared for it. And I think reading that book is a good place to start. And just having that awareness that you might be inclined to give up and not pursue it any further. And I strongly encourage you to push past that. And within that, like set tangible, realistic goals for yourself. That's sort of like the difference between big swings and small swings. Like, I can be upset that my obstacle competition show didn't get picked up, by CBS, but cool that I got to pitch. And if it had, awesome. But there are little things that I do have control over. And like, this is maybe a silly example and doesn't really pertain to career, but I've been learning how to surf the last few weeks, and getting out in the ocean and trying to get out there every day and just getting pummeled, or watching somebody do better than me and feeling like I should be better than I am, and like maybe catching one and getting excited about it, but then getting right by the next one. And like trying to navigate and learn that new skill has been, it's been brutal. It's been brutal. But to show up every morning and push past that failure, and I don't know, at least in my life, sometimes it's helpful or useful to have a skill, physical, or like outside of the discipline which you're focused on professionally, to experience a little win in that area.
Mm-hmm.
To again, much like when I finished college, to be like, oh yes, I can do this. I can set my mind to something and I can accomplish it. And it might not be the end all be all, but I committed to it and I did it. And we need that affirmation of tiny wins along the path in order to stay fired up and to keep the momentum going for the bigger ones that you're striving toward.
I think
I don't know.
That's a perfect example, because we're all about, I did a episode on self-confidence in a way, and how the things that are out of your comfort zone and that you're able to accomplish, it kind of gives you that positive motivation that I can do anything. I can, if I put my mind to it, I'm going to get there and accomplish it. And for you, you're a Midwest guy and you're doing something new with surfing, and each day you're getting better and better, and you're trying, and you're not giving up in a way. You're just going to do whatever it takes to learn from someone, research, do anything, and maybe you'll post it on your social medias that you've been surfing.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will.
We're going to see you on ESPN on the, I don't even know, the Ultimate Surfing League or something. You're going to do sideline reporting for that.
Can you imagine? This whole time my real calling has been surfing. Oh man.
That happens. I'm going to be like, everyone go back to my interview that I did with him and you'll see we just talked about this.
Anything is possible, everyone.
Well, Evan, I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show and taking the time to talk about your journey. I've definitely learned a lot from you, and I've enjoyed each step that you took to overcome challenges and what you've learned about yourself from your experience.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me on the show today.